Hey everyone, I'm Klloo. So, I don't know about you, but I'm getting a tad itchy waiting for the Mistveil spoilers, because the more I think about it, the more we just really don't know what's going on, right? Everything we've gotten is sort of self-enclosed, right? We have the Transcend mechanic, we have what appears to be the Chi Spender. There could be more of both, but either way, they're sort of looped in themselves, and anything else in the set is really up for grabs, right? So I thought we'd start going through spoilers, because also, timing-wise, right, the Kayo deck comes out pretty soon, so I'm assuming we'll get a full deck list for that, although we will be talking about some of the cards that have been spoiled for that. And then, of course, we just have general spoilers for Mistveil, and I'm really curious, right, what's going to come out here with the massive 8 slots. Probably the common slot of equipment, maybe the token weapons, but then there's like the awkward 4th slot because there's only 3 heroes. So really curious about that, right? I could also see Warsaw being the 3 weapons, and then the 2 tokens that we don't know what they are, right? Fang Strike and Slither, and I could see her news weapon having something to do with generating those as tokens. It could be interesting. But overall, right, there's enough cards, I think, for us to talk about, so why don't we just crack into it? And basically they're expansion slot cards, which are interesting themselves, because I'm really curious about their mentality in terms of timing, right? Because Visit Goldmane and Visit Golden Anvil both, to me, scream like, why aren't these, or why weren't they part of heavy hitters, right? They're awesome cards, and they're sort of the gold payoff, especially for Olympia, that I really wanted to see in the set. So it's cool to see that we're getting them, but it does make me wonder, because timing-wise, I would assume these aren't last-minute inclusions, right? I doubt LSS is working one set ahead. So I would, assume that most of these are finalized or thought of. And maybe they were thinking, we'll see how Victor and Olympia go, right? Before we interject these payoffs, these gold spenders for them. But yeah, timing is just a weird thing to think about. Anyway, so far we have Victor, Olympia, Azalea, basically, although I do like it for Riptide too, but I do feel like it's more tune-up for Azalea, right? Riptide, Levia, and Vizette. Is Vizette the correct one? I think Vizette's the correct one. So if we look at the Living Legend board, right? So what does that show us? Olympia, Vizette, Riptide, and then we have Levia and Victor, right? Olympia is also down, yeah. So everyone is from the 200 below point range, which is where I usually see them adding cards if we go back through the sets, right? Again, whether or not you think the card is more for Azalea or for Riptide, I feel like there are a lot more Azalea setups with New Horizon, and the new, essentially, deck that you really want to build for Riptide using the new Murky Waters. While this does, act beneficially, I think there's better slots or better arm pieces than necessarily just a +4, right? I could be wrong, because again, you can load up into your arsenal, but this is the hand and or arsenal. Altogether, I do think though it just works way better with New Horizon having 2 slots, having 6 cards supposedly, because you are losing 2 for a +4. But yeah, we'll start from the start. So visit Goldmane Estate, create a gold token, then if you control 3 or more, create that many might tokens. Shenanigans to be had, but generally just really good payoff, right? So you spend 1 for a setup next turn, you get 3 gold, which allows you to also go positive in hand, right? 3 gold is the metric if you're cashing them in using, blue cards. You get 1 for free, you pitch 2, you draw 3, right? And then you also get the 3 might tokens, right? So as long as you have the shield, you've generated 1 gold, and then you play this, you're golden, right? You get 3 might tokens, you get a good setup for the next turn. Overall, it is just a really, really juicy card, right? Blue with 3 block, only costs 1, has go again inbuilt, unlike the Olympia one, right? So it's just all around fantastic, and I'm itching to see if, someone can pull off a massive gold dump. We just have a ton on board, and then we just go nuts. But we'll have to see. But even, I suppose, this going into Victor's actual ability, right? Drawing a card when you create gold. Hopefully I'm not getting that mistaken. We'll just double check. But yeah, even just 2 turns back to back, right? 1 going off this card, going off Victor's ability, going off maybe even cashing out the gold into another 3 might turns or +3 on board. Seems very strong. So hopefully that's enough to bump him up. I do see him get quite a decent amount of play, and he does seem like a decent deck as well. Sorry, I was meant to go to heroes, right? So where is good old V? There we go. Yeah, so the first time, each turn you create a gold token, draw a card. Yeah, so it's basically, right, cost 1, so potentially float 1 or 2 resources, draw a card, create a gold token, and some might tokens for the next turn, right? Just auto-include, beautiful card. Visit the Golden Anvil. Now this is the curiosity. So, 0 cost, no go again, still a 3 block though. As an additional cost to play this, destroy X gold you control, then equip X weapons and or equipment from your inventory. Now, we're probably all waiting to see if there's some sort of ruling about duplicates, right? Or I should say, try copies of cards for Classic Constructed, because being able to repeatedly equip your best in slot gear, especially when there's a lot of temper in Warrior, a lot of value block, is just insane, right? Just to use this to just bulk up, be an absolute tanky hero, whether it's just replacing your shield, replacing your chest, replacing your head, any of those really crucial value slots that you've blocked, you've spent all their armor and all their decent effect, and then you just bring them back, right? So I do expect LSS to probably implement a 1 copy rule for equipment, because yeah, just having 3 sets of your best in slot armor just seems nuts to me, even though it doesn't have go again, right? Just end your turn, you've done everything you want to do, right? You just play this, you spend 1 gold, 2 gold, 3 gold, whatever you're doing, and you get massive return. And you can definitely, I mean, look, tempo-wise, it's on almost every slot in Warrior, I want to say. Or you have the Valiant Dynamo, although this does open up then taking other armor instead of Valiant Dynamo. Now, say gold is the main choke point, but we'll excuse that, right? You could be getting, what, an extra 3 block per piece, so 2 and then 1. So 3, 6, 9, 12, right? And you can run up to 3 copies. So it's potentially, 36 extra block over the course of a game. It allows you to block more actively, right? Not worrying about saving your equipment till the real, crucial points. And yeah, it just allows Olympia to be quite this fatigue deck, getting huge value just out of your weapons, and then just being super tanky. So it's a very interesting card, right? The go again is probably the big control point. If it had go again, that'd just be bonkers. But even without go again, I still think both these are just auto includes for both of them. Now, for the next two, we might as well talk about Riptide. So Riptide is a pretty interesting control deck, right? It feels slightly like something was missing, and we're pretty much getting what we need, right? So this is 1 attack Riptide, running every single trap you can, just running a complete control fatigue style deck where you get maximum value out of Nourishing. Nourishing is a just decent card if you're playing it, every other turn, has Dominate if you're fishing out of the graveyard with Codex, or you're stopping it with Memorial Ground or Warmongers, right? Overall, super good. Doesn't fit Ranger because it's not Arrow, right? So you're losing out on some other very beneficial Arrow synergy cards, but it still works wonderfully with the deck, right? Now, what we're getting is Murky Water. Riptide specialization. If this has an aim counter, it gains +1 and Dominate. So you can think of it, in most cases, as a 3 for 7 with Dominate, right? Because you have to do something to get an aim counter, and that something usually costs 1 resource. But when this hits, you may banish face down 3 traps from your graveyard. If you do, choose 1 at random and put it into your arsenal. So you get, or re-equip, basically, you get 1 trap back from the graveyard, which is a big thing, right? Because if you've seen any of my games, in Blitz, works wonderfully, right? It's the right speed for Blitz. Class Constructed, you're generally not able to do enough damage or burn enough life with the trap ping, right, over the course of the game. So being able to now have 3 copies of Murky Water in your deck, and then still run the same sort of setup where you're fishing them back, Memorial Ground, Codex of Frailty, right, stopping it going into the graveyard and just playing it over and over again, you're going to get a decent chunk of your traps back. Now, obviously you lose 2 for every 1 you get back, and it also has to hit. But that is more than enough. It's similar to Olympia, the amount of block you're going to be able to recover, and also just that extra ping damage if you pick the traps correctly, right? It's against the right matchup. There's still definitely bad matchups for it. It is just super powerful, and the glue that this deck really needed to just be from average to what I think is probably going to be a very good deck, right? And we might actually see Riptide climbing the ladder. Now, where does Long Draw Half Glove come into that? So, instant, destroy this, put 2 cards from your hand or arsenal on the bottom of your deck. Your next arrow attack this turn gets +4. Now, +4 is super juicy, but, right, it's only 1 block, and you have to destroy it. So it could make or break. It could definitely be salvaged for the traps, but you're losing 2 cards to do just that. Now, what you'll find if you try Trap Tide, right, is you do not have a lot of resources to spend. Every card is crucial because, generally speaking, again, Murky Water is 2 to 3 cost. And, we run barely any blues because there's not that many blues, right? We're mainly in red. So being able to have those 3 resources, and then also have 2 cards to spend on the new glove slot, to me seems like a very difficult ask. So again, I think it's going to do wonders in Azalea. It might just put her over the edge. A huge +4 on the right arrow is just going to do wonders. For Riptide, there'll definitely be setups for it. But in terms of Murky Water, I don't think they synergize too well. Murky Water was, say, 1 cost with still the aim counter, maybe slightly less damage, maybe a 5, and it just turns into Nourishing. Then I could see. But because it's pushing the overall cost of this build up by 1, I can't see them synergizing together. It's still a wonderful card, right? A +4 is massive, especially with some of the really dangerous arrow effects, right? This could definitely make or break it. It's instant too. Now it is still the next arrow attack, so you can't use it as a reaction, but you can, for instance, not break the chain, right? So if you ping with a normal arrow and then you use this for your next arrow, you don't break the chain, they can't reblock with armor, and you're just doing a massive extra bit of damage that will most likely clench your abilities. Okay, and then we have Shadow Brute, also a super interesting card, and also Runeblade. We'll probably do the Runeblade first because this is a bit more complex, right? So Rune Gates cost 1, as long as you have 1 Rune Chain token, it's free, right? When the combat chain closes, if the hero has lost life this turn, create an Eloquence token. Now, we're seeing this a lot, right? It doesn't have to hit. They just have to have had essentially a little bit of ping from Rune Chain, which I'm curious if they'll put Rune Chain in because it is mentioned, but I suppose not, because there's nothing that generates it, right? So, Eloquence. When you play a non-attack action card, destroy this, and your card gets go again, right? We're getting closer and closer to, oh god, who was before Visor Chain, right? We're getting closer and closer to Chain with the Eloquence generation. So overall, it is just a nice little insert, definitely strong, but nothing fantastic from my perspective, right? And still, 3 block, 1 for 4, or 0 for 4, decent, and again, the generation. So, good card. I didn't play enough Runeblade to actually speak on it, but Shadow Realm Horror. As additional costs to play this, banish 3 random cards in your graveyard. If 1 or more cards with 6 or more are banished this way, this gets +1. 2 or more, go again. And 3 or more, you may play a card banished this way this turn. Right? So this is pretty insane. Taking this and then running just a normal Brute style deck, not a Shadow Brute style deck, I can see this having huge value, right? Because you're sending the majority of cards to your graveyard, not really worrying about blood debt, and then you just swing for this. You get 2, go again, cool, I'll play another thing from here. But those times where you get 3, where you get exactly 3 6 or mores banished, it is insane, right? The fact that you can then spend whatever cards you have left in your hand to pay for that 3rd card, you have a choice of most likely 3 decent cards to play, is just great value, right? So 2 for 7 in most cases, 2 for 7 with go again in some cases, and 2 for 7 with a card to play directly after it, using your other cards in hand as resources, therefore being able to still block and not hold X amount of cards in your hand for your turn. Fantastic, right? Definitely what we're seeing is enough to really start these heroes moving up, right? That's at least my opinion. Again, we're definitely close to losing, but I can see points being really spread around thanks to this, because these are just, overall to me, really fun cards to at least try out, like especially the Olympia. That's a whole new sort of play style, right? Similar to what we thought, with Concealed Weapon, right? That I wouldn't say is truly paid off just yet, because getting daggers back isn't that fantastic. It's a bit slow compared to, for instance, Graven's Call. I can see that's why they added Graven's Call in, but Olympia, just, again, different sets of different armor, right, that have different effects. You go for a really high value low block to start with, pay off, burn through them all, then re-equip, take your tanky setup. It's going to be super interesting play. The Victor one, again, I just want to try and build a giant gold stack to get a ton of might tokens. Could be interesting. And then, yeah, Riptide, really loving Riptide, right? He's my next fave behind Melody. And then the Brute card, fantastic. And then I'm guessing this is just what Runeblade needs, right? So altogether, I think this is probably our strongest set of expansion slot cards that we've seen so far, because usually there's some hit or misses, but I don't think any of these are misses just yet, but we still have some more to go. Now, Battlefield Bastion, this is also another interesting point, right? So we know it's extended out, we know it's promo. I can see it being a promo for the Kayo armor kit, because what we now know is it is in the Kayo kit, right? Whether or not it appears in Mistveil 2, probably, right? It seems like really, really good include, right? Just across the board. block with prevention, fantastic. Decent attack, pretty good, right? So whether or not we only see it in KO and a promo, or whether or not we see it in Mistveil, either way, it's definitely going to be a desirable common. Now, the only other card spawned for KO is this Hide Tanner, right? So when you discard a random card with 6 or more, you may destroy this. If you do, create 2 Might tokens. There's Battle Worn and 1 block. So if we compare it to what Brute currently has, Skull Crusher and Apex Bonebreaker, right? So Skull Crusher, we didn't really get any add-on to the whole dice gimmick of KO, so Skull Crusher is not seeing as great value, right? If we saw a proper dice mechanic in class constructed, yeah, Skull Crusher would be a really good include, because statistically, you're most likely going to get a lot more value out of it, right? Because Battle Worn, you can block with it, doesn't get destroyed, and then every time you roll a 5 or 6, it's a free +1. Now, Apex, when you defend together with a card with 6 or more, create a Might token. So this is an if to me, right? Obviously, you're going to do it more often than not, but it's still an if. Versus Hide Tanner, which is just a straight, right? When you discard a random card with 6 or more, you may destroy this. If you do 2 Might tokens, very easy just to burn the 1 block. And then again, as KO, even as Reiner, that's going to happen. And you can cherry pick when you want the 2 Might tokens, right? And that to me is a little bit better payoff, because 2 it's generally better than 1, right? Being able to, guarantee that you have that 2 extra damage on the turn to push through something that wants to be pushed through is good, right? Is a bit better than +1, but I can also see the armor value of Apex Bonebreaker. So it is definitely going to be a nice budget, hopefully, depending on what else is in the deck. Because again, you're going to take I think it's 60 Australian, 40 US, and basically put the majority of it in Savage Sash for now, but a little bit in Hide Tanner, right? If we see a bunch of other good cards, they'll get split up a bit more, but I would assume the majority is still going into Savage Sash. So Hide Tanner could be a nice, cheap alternative to Apex. Definitely better than Skull Crushers in the current versions of Brutes. But yeah, we might see Apex come down a little bit, considering it was just super good, right? So I think that is everything in terms of spoilers. I don't think I ended up going through all the Transcend cards. I'm going to wait till we see more, right? If this is the only cheese spender, sure. But if there's something else going on, or something else with Transcend, maybe we have the just common blue cards, right? I'm hoping this is instead of just a jank armor, and we get 1 or none, right? Full sets of jank armor in the set. There'll have to be something, because obviously it's a draftable set, but I feel like these are sort of missing something. Either they want it to be 3 block, or they want Go Again. Go Again would be a bit too crazy, so maybe the 3 block. Otherwise, they're just okay commons, right? I don't think you're ever going to really use them unless blue is super necessary outside of limited. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.